But first, reading, writing, and radicalism. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, let me just say as a mother, it is a minefield for parents out there. Now, too often, the very people whom you're supposed to be able to trust to teach your sons and daughters are the ones you can trust the least. Like this lovely teacher, a woman named Amber Parker, who was just fired from Franklin High School in El Paso, Texas. Come on, forget math and science. Her message to students recently was, don't be mean to pedophiles.
Stop it, Diego. We're not going to call them that. We're going to call them MAPs. No. Minor attracted persons. No. So don't judge people just because they want to have sex with a 5-year-old.
If you wonder why your kids come home questioning your family's values and beliefs, it's because of so-called educators like Ms. Parker. Now, in that push to normalize deviancy, she's doing her part to advance the left's larger goal, which is to persecute anyone with traditional views on sexuality. Now, the unions and the leftists who fund them want conservative parents driven underground or out of public life altogether. Bottom line, if you're a devout Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew, then they think you're hateful and they want to convince your kids to hate you. In New Jersey, second graders are now being forced to learn about gender identity starting this semester. New guidelines include discussing the range of ways that people express their gender and how gender role stereotypes may limit behavior. Of course, when parents object to that, as most normal parents should, they're attacked by unions as dangerous extremists.
When extremists start attacking our schools to drive a wedge between us, we take it personally. People who only want to fight and argue to score political points should take that somewhere else.
Take it somewhere else? Okay. Translation: you people who pay the bills should sit down and shut up or move out of state. So much for diversity, equity, and inclusion. All these people stand for is exclusion. Republicans in New Jersey are smartly jumping on the state's new education standards that push this gender identity issue into the classroom. But despite parents' strenuous objections, Democrat Governor Phil Murphy greenlit this new sexualized education standards that are being implemented, as I said, right now. So in New Jersey's 7th district, interesting stuff happening there. Tom Keene Jr., Republican, is trying to unseat incumbent Democrat Tom Malinkowski, hitting his both inflationary record and the radicalization of the school curricula issue.
Gender identity and education as young as first grade, exposure to pornography as young as second grade. Parents rightfully were angry at these standards and stood up across New Jersey, Republicans and Democrats alike, to make sure that their kids have the education, core curriculum education that they deserve.
And they need. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, he was just on with me last week on set, he won, remember, last November in large part due to this issue. And Republicans across America need to remember how crucial parent power is at the polls. And that means in states like Wisconsin, where they start sexualizing their kids in school very early. Recommended reading for a gender-expansive preschool curricula include Jacob's New Dress, My Princess Boy, and Julian is a Mermaid. Yay. In Michigan, one education official is pushing the notion that a child can question his or her gender while still potty training.
Kids have a sense of their gender identity between the ages of 3 and 5. So about the time that kids have language, they can start to share with us whether they're a boy or a girl. Usually those are the only things that they will identify as, because those are the only options we've given them.
And in Idaho, mothers and fathers were shocked this week to discover the state's Department of Health and Welfare is implementing a sex ed curriculum endorsed by Planned Parenthood. And the training materials for this comes from a left-wing group with an innocuous name called Education, Training, and Research, or ETR. And that promotes what they call the queering of education and normalizing the consumption of pornography. Check out one of the instructional videos for teaching porn literacy.
Critical thinking skills are the largest component of porn literacy. It's the ability for young people to analyze and ask questions about the media that they're viewing. Porn is meant to sexually excite a viewer and create fantasy, right?
Oh my God. And it gets worse. They advocate cartoon porn.
Wow, that's so big. I never knew it could be so huge. Hey, Jane, what are you looking at?
And of course, then there's the handy tips to students about how to hide their porn viewing habits from parents. Is that part of the normal experience too?
I find that when I've normalized watching porn and being curious, students are a lot more engaged in the conversation, but they're also building trust with me. It's okay if they have watched porn, and it's okay if they have thought about porn. I always make sure to say someone being curious about sex and or porn does not make them a bad person. It makes them human.
Special thanks to the Idaho Freedom Foundation and the Center for American Education for publishing these videos and exposing what's happening in Idaho schools. So over the years, right under parents' noses, these deviant organizations burrowed into our culture and into our schools. They vacuum up multi-million-dollar contracts to flood our schools with the values that are directly at odds with what most parents are teaching their children at home. But this is applauded by the teachers' unions and approved by liberal school board members and Democrat legislators and governors. The goal of America's education establishment, it's not to prepare your children to be productive citizens. It's to propagandize to them to be left-wing activists. The old norms, God, family, and country, they haven't been just kicked to the schoolhouse curb. They've been labeled as extremist and even fascist by Democrats and their allies. But parents, especially moms, I'm here to tell you tonight that I'm with you in this fight all the way. We need to be warriors to protect the innocence of our children. That means demanding that the schools that we fund with our tax dollars teach what we know our children need to know: math, science, reading, writing. Not whatever sexual trend is in fashion at the moment. Not abortion, not climate change activism, not racial grievance. This election in November, it's not just a referendum on the economy and crime. Obviously, those are critically important, but also on the Democrats' domination of our schools. It's up to us to stop these menaces from damaging our children. Enough is enough. And that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.